Oh, did he come? Did he come? Did he come? Yeah. I didn't see him. No. Okay. Rivka, is Rivka here? No, it's Shoshana. Yeah. Talia. Okay. Bina, is not here yet. Laura. Sirka. Okay. Malka. Ariel. Gotcha. Michal. Josephine.
She's with Mrs. Spencer.
Okay. Shoshana was just here a second ago. Okay. Maya is not here. Anna, we said already. Sarah Abigail. Okay. Sarah Mora. Tova. Shayna. Leah. Sharonel. Okay. Tehila. Okay. And so for Geula. Okay. So then we got everybody in here. Okay. So Pirkei Avos, and we just did the Mishnah. We didn't go into explaining it. So the last Mishnah we did was Mishnah 6, and it said three things there. One was Asay l'charav, appoint a teacher for yourself. One was Knei l'chachaber, acquire a good close friend for yourself. And the third one was you should always judge other people favorably. We said each one of these three things, there's a lot to talk about. So we have something on each one of the three, but we'll start with the first one, Asay l'charav, which means appoint a teacher for yourself. What does that mean? It means even though there are many rabbis, people that teach Torah, and there are so many people that have the Torah knowledge and they can give us Torah guidance, but nevertheless, every person should choose someone that's sort of their personal rabbi, their personal teacher. And in fact, some of you might be aware that in 1986, as we know, from time to time, the Rebbe focused on something, made that into a campaign. In 1986, the Rebbe introduced this idea with these words, actually, Asay l'charav, that every person should have a teacher, a mentor, someone that you can turn to get advice, how to conduct yourself and what to do. Now, I want to explain this a little bit. Really, we need much more time, and I think one of these days, spoke about it with Mrs. Cohen. We're going to have actually a little, maybe a guest or two. One time we had a panel. Then people come down, talk about it, can ask more questions. But here I just want to give a general sort of introduction to the subject. And that is, it says, appoint a teacher to yourself, and then you won't have any doubt, which means as follows. Of course, it says so many different things in the Torah, but very often we have to know how to apply what it says to me personally and to my situation personally. Because a lot of things, there's the black, there's the white, and there's the gray area. Some things are very clear. You must do this. You're not allowed to do that. And then there are things which we call the gray area, which means under certain circumstances, this is positive, sometimes it's negative. Remember, we spoke about this the other day in one of the classes, that it's a good thing to make a fence, remember? And then we said, but sometimes a fence could be taking on too much and then it backfires. So someone says it's a good thing to daven the whole entire davening every day. It is a good thing, but it depends for whom. For one person, it might be positive. For one person, it might be negative. How could davening be negative? Yes, because of that person, it might be too much, too overwhelming, and might do more damage than good. And if someone comes to ask you about the laws of Shabbos, you can tell them there are 39 malachas. But if you're doing miftzayim and you're meeting this woman for the first time, and she says, "What is this?" He said, "These are Shabbos candles. But I want you to know, besides lighting the candles, there's another 39 things, which include about 500,000 different details of things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos." She says, "Have a nice day," which means for this person, it's a positive thing to know. For this person, at this moment, that's not what they need to hear. So on a personal level, there's a lot of things in Torah that even though there's a general idea, but the details, the nuances, each person has to know how to apply to themselves. It's like you would say, everyone wears clothing, but the style of the clothing, the color of the clothing, these are details that every person has to choose something that is suitable for them. And the same thing is with Yiddishkeit. Hashem deliberately left room for each one of us to be able to use our free choice and understand how to apply different things in Torah to our personal lives. So the problem is that very often it's hard for us to make that judgment in an honest way. Like if I take on too much, I don't know if it's coming from my Yetzer Tov, who's trying to encourage me to do more good, or is this a gimmick from my Yetzer Hara, who's trying to bring me down? And he knows if he says to me, "Don't learn any Torah," I'll say to him, "Go fly a kite." So he comes and says, learn 1 hour a day, you should be learning 20 hours a day. And it pushes me to take on more and more and more because he knows that eventually that's what's going to happen. Sometimes there are people that they fast as a process of tshuva. And sometimes people do that, and as a result of their fasting, they become sick. And when they become sick, of course, they're learning less, they're davening less, doing mitzvah, which means it wasn't the right thing for them to take on these fasting. But they had such a strong urge to do it. It's possible you have an urge to fast, to do some really beautiful, nice, righteous things. And guess what? It's coming from the Yetzer Hara. A person is very concerned about my imperfections, my flaws. There are things in my life that I need to correct, and it bothers me, and I'm really upset about it. Not always is that coming from the Yetzer Tov. That could also be coming from the Yetzer Hara. Why would the Yetzer Hara make me feel bad? Just he wants me to be down. And when a person is down, I become more vulnerable, and then he attacks me and gets me to do things he wants me to do. So in so many situations, it's very hard to make a pure judgment. So one of the things that the Torah tells us that we can do to help ourselves, if we have a teacher, meaning we have another person who's objective, and this person, I can ask this person for their advice. How do they see it from an objective perspective? And they will give me clarity. And this person doesn't have to be someone who's going to control me. That's not the point. They're going to help me see things from a more objective perspective. So it's based on a principle, which the wording for it is in the next page. I want to show it to you. If you don't mind turning to page 7. We're doing page 6 now. But if you can turn to page 7 for a moment and look at number 5 on the bottom. This is a very famous quote from Gemara where it says, "In chavush matir et atzmo mebeit ha'asurim." A person who's locked up can't unlock himself. What does that mean? So it's a very interesting story told in Gemara. There was one of the rabbis, one of the sages who was sick. And another sage came to visit him. These all great, righteous people. And he says to him, "I see that you're suffering a lot, but you should know that when a person suffers, it's an atonement, and it helps cleansing spiritually." So the one who was sick said, "I'm not interested in the suffering. I'm not interested in the rewards. I just don't want the suffering." So he said, "If that's the case, give me your hand." He gave him a handshake. And as soon as he shook his hand, stood up, and miraculously he was cured. So the Gemara says, a while later, a year later or more, the rabbi who was visiting, he became sick. And someone else came to visit him. And he said, "I see that you're suffering, but you should know that suffering is something which is an atonement for sin." So he gave the same response. "I'm not interested in the suffering, and I'm not interested in their rewards." So he said, "If that's the case, give me your hand." He gave him his hand. And as soon as he gave him a handshake, miraculously, he was cured and he got out of bed and he was fine. So the Gemara asked the obvious question. He was the one who did this to the other rabbi. So why did he need someone to do it to him? He could have done it to himself. And these are the words in Gemara, which are it's a very profound statement and has a lot of sort of implications. Someone who's locked up in a situation can't unlock themselves. So when he had to help the other person, he could do it. He needed to do it for himself. He needed someone outside of himself to unlock him. In context of our conversation here is when I'm in a situation, the reason why sometimes I can't see it clearly is not because I'm not intelligent. You could be intelligent, you could be brilliant, but we don't realize to what extent my personal interests, or maybe I'm going to lose money, gain money, I'm tired, I'm lazy. There'll be other things that play a role in my making a decision. And I don't realize that that's really affecting my decision. And it's not a pure objective conclusion that I'm making in the mind. And therefore, even someone who's a mashpia, which means someone who gives advice to hundreds of people. Imagine, this person gives advice to hundreds of people. Now, they themselves have some situation where they don't know which way to turn. They could say, well, if I give advice to hundreds of people, I could surely give myself advice. The Rebbe said, no, that person should also have a mashpia. Because when it's me, again, I can't see clearly. I can't see objectively. And I need someone else to help me see things more objectively. And probably everyone in this room must have had such an experience where there was something that was not clear in your mind. You didn't know what to do, how to do. And you shared it with a friend and they gave a suggestion. And then you said, I can't believe it. It's so simple. How come I didn't think of it? The reason why you didn't think of it, not because you're not as intelligent, and not the other person is more intelligent than me, is because I'm objective and they're not. And when you're not objective, you just see things in a more clear way. So this is the reason why we'll soon learn. The Mishnah says every person should have a close friend, and every person should have a teacher, a mentor that they can turn to. We'll soon see how it also relates to the idea of a friend. And you'll notice it doesn't say appoint to yourself teachers, plural. It says appoint yourself a teacher. Because if you're going to appoint a few teachers, then you're still not going to have clarity, because everyone has different perspectives. And it can all be true, it's just different perspectives. And one person will tell you one thing, the other will tell you the other thing, and you're back to confusion center all over again. So every person should choose someone that they feel they have a rapport with that person, the way they think and the way they look at things resonates with them, and they choose that person to be their so-called mashpia. I just want to throw in that there are some people that do mashpia hopping. I'll explain what that means. Which means they choose a mashpia, and mashpia gives them guidance. And after a little while, they don't really like what they're saying, so they choose another mashpia. After a while, they don't like what they're saying, so they choose another mashpia. And after a while, they don't like what they're saying, so they choose a fourth mashpia. So at the end of the day, the real mashpia is me, myself, and I. In other words, it's not that I don't like the mashpia. It's almost like I want the other person to tell me what I want to hear. But that's not the reason why we have a mashpia. We have a mashpia to get an objective opinion, and if I should be honest with myself, to be able to look at things in an objective way and to do things the way it's supposed to be that way. Tell a story, it's probably a mashal rather than a real story, but this is the way the story goes. That there was a person that he said to himself, the confusion in this world is just too much. I don't like it. I really want to find out what's the truth of life. What's it all about? And he decided to go to the highest person in the academic field in his city, the top guy in the university. He met with him. Tell me, what's really the truth? How you see it? This philosopher gives him his perspective. Doesn't like it. He goes to another one, to another one, to another one, like it. So he decides, I really have to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to travel to another town. They have very smart people there in that college. I'm going to ask them. He meets there with the smartest person in town, the most intelligent person in town, speaks to him. No, that's not what he has to say either. And he goes from one place to another. And guess what? He's been traveling for 40 years. 40 years from one to another, could not find anybody that could give a satisfying answer what's really the truth. In one of his journeys, he comes across an island. At first he thought nobody lives here, but at night he saw a lot of light. So he followed in that direction where there was light, and he saw something very strange. He saw tens of thousands of candles, and they're all lit, and that's where the light is coming from. Well, if there are tens of thousands of candles, it must be somebody who's lighting the candles. So he's searching and looking, and sure enough, he sees a man with a long white beard. He's in charge. And he says, what's going on here? What are all these candles about? So he said, every person in the world has a candle here. And as much oil as you see in the glass, that's how long they have to live. Really? So my glass is also here? I said, yeah. How can I find it? It's organized, it's arranged according to the map. Find your country, find your city, find your neighborhood where you were born, and you'll find your glass with your name on it. Okay, his hand starts shaking and he starts looking. His heart is pounding, he's looking. Yeah, he found his country, and he found his city, and he found his neighborhood, and he comes to his area and his block, and he finds his candle with his name on it, and there's hardly any oil left. Mamish like this. He takes a look at the glass right next to his is full, almost to the top. And he's thinking, and then the man who's in charge turns around and goes in the other direction. He takes the other glass with the oil, and is about to pour that oil into his glass. And that person turns around and points a finger at him and says, you've been spending 40 years to search for the truth, search for the emes. This is the emes. That's the story. The commentary is, here's a person that says all he wants is emes. Once he discovered that the emes says and denies his existence, he's ready to lie. In other words, he wasn't looking for emes. He was looking for someone to endorse what he believes to be emes. So then it's not pure emes, that's something else. So therefore, again, the idea of Aseh L'Chav means I want the truth and I want to do the right thing. And I know that I can't always trust myself, and that's why I'm turning to another person, whether it be a close friend that I respect or a teacher that I respect, and I bounce it off them, who they are objective, and they can help me see it in a more objective way. And this is the reason also, the next thing on the page, I'm talking about page 6 now, where it says, number 2, Talmud Chacham. Talmud Chacham, anyone know what that means? Right, but how do we usually use this word? Student? What? Actually, it's usually used to describe a scholar, a Torah scholar. The words are Talmud, which means a student of a wise person. So I guess the way it would have to be translated is a Torah student who's wise. But one of the ways that, and one of the interpretations that are given is that Talmud Chacham means that even a person who's a Torah scholar, even a person who is a very, very brilliant Torah scholar with a lot of knowledge, he also has to be a student of a wise person, because of this reason that you can't always see things as they are from your own perspective in the right way. And this is what it says in Pirkei Avos. It's we didn't do this Mishnah, but it's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos where it says that you should be sitting at the dust. It's talking about at the dust of their feet. By the way, years ago, that's how people studied. They sat on the floor, and the teacher would be sitting on something high, a rock or something, and teaching. Sit by the dust of their feet and drink in their words with thirst, which basically means that even someone who has Torah knowledge should look for a teacher because without a teacher, you might be sort of misinterpreting and reading into things according to the way you want it to be. Now, even though there are different teachers and there are different perspectives, it doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. They're all true. Within Torah, there can be different paths, and they're all true paths, but they're different, and it's for different people in different circumstances. Just like, for example, in general, there's Sephardim and Ashkenazim. And what Sephardim do is, according to Torah and according to their rabbis who give a Torah ruling, Ashkenazic Jews follow their rabbis, and that's their Torah ruling. And both are true, even though doing opposite things. This one says you could eat this food. This one says you can't eat this food. And obviously, they're both emes. How can they both be true? It's. I guess you can compare it to the physical level. Could it be possible that there's a certain food that is very healthy for one person, and for another person, you'll have an allergic reaction after you rush to the hospital? Absolutely. And it means this combination, me and this food, don't work together. I need a different food. I don't do well in this weather, and you do better in this weather. Spiritually, I mean, again, we have to learn more about this general subject, but spiritually, it means also that the reason why Hashem set up the Torah in such a way that there are different paths is because there are different strokes for different folks, as they say. So therefore, both are true, and I have to find my path. And that's where I need to turn to someone to help me. That's why I said before, if you go to three people, they might be all saying something which is right, but everyone is giving you their perspective. So you have to develop a relationship with a specific person. You know them, they know you, and they can advise you because of who you are. So now let's go to the second page, which is page 7. That's the second point in the Mishnah, which says, acquire for yourself a friend. Which, first of all, it means every person should have friends. There's a famous quote from the Rambam Maimonides, where he writes that by nature, a person needs friends. That's the nature of a human being. Hashem created us, we need friends. But again, it says acquire for you a friend. There's friends and there are friends. There are friends, people that would say hello, how are you, how's the weather, yeah, and goodbye. And there are friends we have more of a closer relationship, someone that I could share something with, and again, sometimes get advice. That my friend is more objective, and they could see what I need more clearly than I do, and I could see what they need more clearly than they can do. So this is what it says, acquire a friend. You know that the friend should be a positive friend and a positive influence, because friends have a big influence on a person. And we just learned the parsha of Noach, and this week we have the parsha about Avram Avinu. So it reminds me of a story that there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Gordon. He was a rabbi in New Jersey, and he brought a group of bar mitzvah boys to the Rebbe for a bracha. And the Rebbe asked one of the boys, so what are you going to be doing after your bar mitzvah lessons are over? He said, I'm going back to regular public school schedule. And the other boy, what are you going to do? Same thing. In other words, they're not going to continue their Hebrew studies. So Rebbe asked him why. So he said, that's what all the kids on the block are doing. And the Rebbe asked him, what are you learning now? So one of them said, I'm learning about Noach and the flood. So he said, do you realize that Noach would have done what all the kids on the block did? There wouldn't be a world today. He has another boy, what are you doing? He says, I'm learning about Abraham. So he said, do you realize that if Abraham would do what all the people on the block do, then there wouldn't be any Jewish people today. The strength of these people were that they were able to go against the current. So, but what we see from this is that there is a very strong influence that comes from friends. So we should surround ourselves with friends that are positive and not friends that are negative. Because that kind of pressure sometimes from friends that they do things a certain way, and I don't want to be different. There was once an interview, they interviewed this woman who was 104 years old. And they asked her, what's the best thing about being 104? And she said, no peer pressure.
No friends.
Baruch Hashem, today there are more people that age than there ever was. Yeah.
Like, how do you know like who you are? I guess like.
Look in the mirror.
But like from like the other things, like what you want, like there's all different types of friends, and your friends influence you, and you could be one way around one friend or another way around another friend, like throughout life, or
Right.
or like same with like teachers. So how do you know how do you like take all that and figure out exactly like what you really want without being biased on what our influence is?
I mean, I think the only way is simply that's the brain by nature, the brain in itself is not objective, is objective. And if a person is able to just try to detach himself from everything else, try to figure out who am I, what do I really want, what do I feel I'm doing is to please this one or to please that one, and what really gives me pleasure, I think we should be able to figure that out. I think what's necessary is to stop and think. Very often we don't stop and think, and we just go with the flow, and that's when things are not really worked out. But if I would stop and think and try to figure out what do I really want, and what am I doing in order to make this person happy or that person happy, you should be able to figure that out. So there's another quote in Pirkei Avos. We're going to have that later. Number 2. Out is chaber l'rasha. Don't befriend a rasha, means a bad person. And again, we're going to learn this in the parsha that Avram had 2 sons. One son was Yitzchak, and one son was Yishmael. And Yishmael was a bad influence. And the mother, Sarah, insisted that he leave the house because she saw that he's corrupt and he's going to make Yitzchak corrupt. Avram actually didn't want to do this, and Hashem said to Avram, listen to whatever Sarah is saying. And she sees it the way it really is. But the reason was because the influence that comes from friends is a very, very strong influence. And the Rambam writes that a person should choose a place to live also. That's a little bit different. That's more about neighbors. I'll get to that a little bit later. But number 3 is a story in Gemara, which is a very interesting story. And you'll soon recognize something about the story. But the story about a tzaddik whose name was Choni HaMagor. Literally, it means Choni, the circle maker. He was a very big tzaddik. And whenever there was an issue with rain, there was no rain, the Jews would come to him that he should pray for rain. He would go out in the field, take a stick, make a circle around himself, and say, Hashem, I will not leave the circle until you bring a rain for your children. If I'd make the circle, I'd be there for the rest of my life. But he made the circle, and Hashem loved him. So because of his prayers, Hashem brought rain. And then there was a story with him that he slept for 70 years. You heard of Rip Van Winkle. Maybe that's where they got it, they were inspired to tell the story. But in Gemara it says he slept for 70 years. And he woke up 70 years later. There's a few details I think Gemara talks about. But one of them was that after he slept for 70 years, he went to the yeshiva, didn't recognize anybody. And they were actually talking about statements that he made. I had no idea that he was the person. And he says, I'm that person. Nobody recognized him because 70 years later, they thought for sure he's no longer alive. And then he walked out and said to Hashem these words, number 3, Oy chavrusa, oy misusa, which means either give me a friend or I have no place in this world. Basically, God forbid, it doesn't mean that a person should make that choice. It means how much we should go out of our way in order to acquire friends, because that's what we all need for our emotional support. Everyone needs a friend. There's nobody that doesn't need a friend. So even if I don't have a friend, we are a little bit afraid of friends. We're afraid of getting too close to people because sometimes we get hurt. So, there's a green light. Some people take the green light. They make friends with everybody. They're close to everybody and they tell everybody their whole life story. Some people take the red light. They just don't have any friends. They back off. And I think we should take the yellow light. What the yellow light is? Proceed with caution. No, proceed with caution. I hope you don't drive.
I'm too blind for that, Rabbi.
If you're going to tell me the yellow light means speed up,
I never figured too.
Yeah. So basically, of course, you have to develop this relationship slowly and gradually and get to know the other person. But eventually, it's very important for each person to have a close friend. Number 4 is a famous pasuk. It's a verse in Mishlei, in Proverbs, from King Solomon, Shlomo Melech. And the pasuk reads like this: Daigo belev ish. If there's worry in a person's heart, what should he do? Yisachena. In English, I wrote should be talked out, but actually there's 2 interpretations. One means he should talk it out with a friend, and the other actually means he should dismiss it. And maybe tomorrow we'll have more time to go into it, that there are times where talking to someone who's a close friend helps me. I feel lighter because I got it off my chest. I shared it with someone. And sometimes there's certain things where the actual practical advice is don't talk with anyone, just forget about it, dismiss it, just move on and don't make a big issue out of a tissue. And then you can get places. But that again emphasize the importance of a friend, and Lena, tomorrow we'll talk about this more. Okay.
That's the combination I want.
I'm actually very good. Whoa, my name is spot on. How do you see? Okay, so I can use tunnel vision and something like that. You know, it's great. Take like my and a lot of every day where so many people can get so part of it's like I can be real firm. Watch out. I'm gonna be the straight one once I have kids. What is this violence? Probably in the I know trust me. I want to say no, but I don't like being getting so straight up. So just ignore that. No, I don't really. I was like, I don't know why.